Yeah, this is my SV650SF, and I just wanted to kind of take a minute to show a brief overview on how I pulled the rear shock out of it. Now I do have my new one supposedly coming in tomorrow, so I kind of preemptively done it, and this will just be a two-parter. Just want to show briefly what I did. First things first is, if you already kind of researched it online, that I'm putting a ZX14 shock in it, and the same goes for ZX10 and most others. You got to pull out this shield. It sits against the battery box on the bottom. You got to get underneath the wheel well, and there's two bolts on the bottom that hold it to the bottom of this toolbox. You can kind of see it. And then the top one here, to get to the top one, you got to pull the seat off, get this stuff out of the way, and then the tank's got to come off. Now there's a rod back in here. Once this is out of the way, you can see it, that goes straight through the tank, and it's just one simple rod. You unscrew that and the whole tank will pivot upwards, and you can get access to the top screw. So once you have that all out of the way, you're ready for the clearance you need for the shock. Now what I did is, first thing I did is I tied off the front brake line. Keep pressure on this. You got to have a rear stand. I mean, you can probably do it without it, I'm sure, but it just makes it a hell of a lot easier. Put on the rear stand, and then ratchet straps all the way up to a cross beam I have to hold the weight. So I ratchet them up evenly. One would probably be sufficient, but I just put two on there so I can control either side and let one side down after another. So once you have it all suspended in the air, you're pretty much ready for the shock to come out. Basically 17 millimeter wrench, 17 millimeter socket, and that gets off the bolt that's on the dog bone. The other bolts and sockets you need is 14. On the other side of this dog bone, it's a 14 millimeter, and this side's a 17. And then to get the shock, or to get the bolt off that's in the bottom of the shock, you need a 14. And in the very top of the shock, they're both 14s. So pretty much, as you can see, I already pulled the shock out and that, got the big thing out of there, and mine looks pretty clean. My bike's only maybe 4 months old. Trying to ride two up with my woman on the back, and that's near impossible on this shock. I do have front springs coming for it. So pretty much you can see here, this is the dog bone. That's the first thing you pull off. They hang into it just up here. So once you get this pulled out of the way, you're pretty much ready for the next process. It is kind of a little finicky thing. What I did is I took my jack out of my car, this right here. After you loosen the bolts up, you'll find that it's pinched in there, and you just take that jack, put it under here, and just lightly give it enough pressure, and what it'll do is it'll move this just enough for that bolt to come out. And you might have to just rock it a little bit. Bolt will slide out on the other side, and then that's out of the way, and then you just kick them down. And then this bolt here, you just pull this bolt right out of the bottom of the shock, and the whole shock's suspended. After that, come up to the top, and on this side here, you got pretty good access to where the bolt is on the shock. And I don't know if you can see that. That's where it was at. So I came in with an extension piece into the side with the 14, and while I had my hand on it on that end, I came in with a wrench in the other hand, stuck my hand back behind it. If you got really big hands, you might be in a little bit of trouble, but I got pretty big hands enough, and I got in there just fine. And I just held onto it, took it off. Of course, I broke it loose first before I stuck my hand in there and did that. And after you pull that out, put your hand on the bottom of the shock, just kind of jiggle it so you can get the bolt out of it. After you pull that out, then you're pretty much set to go. It's to my understanding that the factory bolt for the bottom of the shock to the dog bone does not work with the ZX10 or ZX14 shock. I think it takes like a 1055 or 54 or something like that. So I might have to find myself a bolt. So I got a pretty good stack of bolts that I can go through. And other than that, all the bolts, top one and everything, are all just the same. You can look online what to set your preload adjustments to and that before you put your new shock in there. And as far as the old one, you know, I guess you do with what you want with it. Keep it just in case something happens to the other one, or who knows. But so now she'll just sit and wait for the new one to come. All in all, I say once you had the tools down, that the whole job in itself might take, I don't know, 10 minutes tops if you got all the tools there in the way. So I will continue this video when I get my shock in and kind of show how I set the pre-load adjustments on it and how it installed and everything else. Thank you.